Good morning. Here we are on session 5 of our painting videos, and I'm hoping that today we can kind of finish this sky up here. I've had several kerfuffles. You can see where I've removed, I did a video last week before the one that I actually posted, and it was, my clouds were happening so badly that I ended up just washing it out, and some areas that were a little bit more dry than others didn't completely wash out, and that's okay because I know I'd be covering over it. But and I was planning on practicing to make sure that I could come up with a better way of doing these clouds, because I've kind of forgotten how. But I didn't have a chance to practice. We've had like I said in the mixing video, we've had a little bit of a virus this past week, so just kind of laid around and just did the very bare necessities. So anyway, let's learn together. That's what we've been doing. And if we mess up, we'll just wash it off and try again. All right. Hopefully that's not going to happen. All right. With the clouds, and I've said all right now 15 times already. With the clouds, we're mostly going to be using these little trouncy type brushes. And let me see, where's our photograph? There we are. And we're going to be starting from way down here and moving toward the top. And the reason for that, of course, is because we're moving closer and closer and closer to us, which is what's happening with these clouds. They're moving closer and closer and closer to us. These clouds down in here, I don't think we'll mess with those today. That will probably be our last video. If we get to them, we'll do them. But I'm not going to take us much past an hour. And then I am hoping that we have time to shoot a few rays down in here. And as I had mentioned in the mixing video, we'll have to determine what we're going to do, if we're going to do any more detail down in here. It's not really necessary because it's such a dark foreground. And what we're doing right there anyway right now is just basically using our imagination. But we'll make those decisions probably next week with just finishing up all the details. All right, now let me see. Let's start with this big bulbous cloud right there, and the only reason I'm going to put him in is because I need to cover up some mess that I have going on. Actually, I don't even need to use that big bulbous cloud, and I may not. Let's just use some smaller little clouds along in there. And let me look at my paints and see if I want to use those darkest colors for that. I'm thinking no. Let's just start out with our medium color. There's going to be a lot of this pounding going on. And there again, your clouds, you know, I rarely even look at the photograph except just at the very beginning when I'm trying to determine the shape that I want my clouds to go in. Because clouds are so difficult to actually follow their line. They're over top and underneath and behind and in front of each other. They're different thicknesses. I just want them to look pretty random. I don't want them to look like, you know, a bunny rabbit running in the sky. So that's pretty much what I concentrate on, is just to make sure that I don't have any actual shapes going on in my clouds. And again, I'm behind the camera and I'm having to duck and dodge and look around it. And one of the things that I found that I was struggling with my clouds was the fact that they looked so grainy. And the only way that I think you can get rid of that is by using a smaller, more pointy brush along the very edges, like I'm doing now. The edges don't need to be crisp and clear because, you know, as we know, clouds rarely have a crisp, clear edge. Most of the time they're soft around the edges. But I just don't want them to look grainy. So, and one of the things that I had done last week that in looking back that I realize now is I had tried to cover too much area too quickly, and my paints were drying on me before I had a chance to work with them. So I'm not gonna make that mistake again. We're not going to do a big, huge amount of clouds all at one time. We'll just work on a little small area of clouds. And then once we have those in place, we'll go to another. So this is going to be a tedious and boring video, possibly more tedious and more boring than the past. I realize that those of you that are sticking with me through these, that you truly enjoy painting, because I know that the way that I paint, my style of painting, even bores me sometimes, but you know, I get the effect that I want, and that's my purpose. But I certainly don't think that these are entertaining enough for anybody to just decide that they're going to hang out with us and watch them. If you are, then bless your heart, I love you. Okay. And I've also decided that I'm not going to have the clouds quite as thick as they are up toward the top. The reason for that is I just don't want to. You can, and you can do that by looking at once we've worked through these clouds, you can look at the clouds on the photograph on your video page at the front of your video. I wish that I had thought of making sure everybody had a photograph for their own hands at the beginning of this. And that's something that will be rectified from now on. Anybody that wants to have a photograph, we'll figure out how to make that happen. But I hope that all of you have a techie in your life that can say, oh, I can just copy that right off the screen for you, and just get it on a printer or print it out. But however that needs to happen. Okay, now what I'm doing is just bringing a little bit of that pinky purple color that we mixed kind of randomly up into this cloud. And especially don't forget to go, where there's an opening, because that means that the sun is able to get up in there a little bit easier and reflect on them, on those cloud openings. And one color that I didn't mix that I wish I had mixed earlier, and actually if the video that I made earlier doesn't have sound come up on it when I check it later, I'll be redoing that video, a new color mixing video anyway, so I'll have that on there. But I didn't mix just a little bit of white and ultramarine blue. And I definitely see that color at the top of these clouds. So go ahead and mix yourself a little bit of white and ultramarine blue. And if it's too intense, you can always add just a bit of Payne's Gray to it. But let's see what we can do with the tops of these clouds. Yeah, it needs just a tad of Payne's Gray in it, just to tone it down a little bit, because it's really, really bright. And I don't want it to be a jump off the page at you. Sometimes you can put a color in there that will be the first thing that someone sees when they look at the painting, and they lose the bigger picture because of that little bit of color. All right, you see that color right there? If I don't remake that other video, that's the color we're going to go for. And let's add just a bit of it. And part of this will be hidden over because we're going to go ahead and the clouds will be built over top of these. But right now, I'm not sure exactly where that's going to happen. And you can wait until you've got all your clouds in to highlight everything, and that would probably be easier. But anyway. Let's put some I'm thinking I want to lighten all those cloud colors just a little bit. I think I've made them way too intense. Okay, sorry about that. That sky up top is pretty dark in spots, but I'm not liking what's happening on the canvas, so I'm gonna lighten it because I want it to be what I want. And you do the same thing with your painting. Soften it, brighten it, lighten it, intensify it as much as you need to make it what you want it to be. All right. That's better. Now, let's try again. That one down there, I don't like it at all. I'm going to leave it alone for a minute. We'll come back to him. Let's work on some clouds up here. You can see where I lightened that color quite a bit, and that'll make it just a whole lot easier also to bump that color out and let it blend a little better. Y'all, I think this is one of those blind leading the blind moments. But stick with me, if you will. We'll get it figured out as time goes forward. As a matter of fact, that cloud is bugging me so bad. I'm going to just remove it real quick so I don't have to work around it or work over it in a minute. Get yourself a little bit of turpentine on your blue paper towel. And let's just wash him off. And then let's dry him. Alright, we'll avoid working down in there for a few minutes until that's good and dry. As I mentioned last week, that's one of the reasons I like working with the alkyds, because they are so hard. You can see there's no residual color at all on my, not from the background anyway, on my brush or on my cloth. So now let's go back up here. I want to really just not work over in there too much. I want to leave a lot of this blue sky, because I think the blue, the sky area that's not covered in clouds, just gives so much relief to all those bright colors down low. So I don't want to totally get rid of those. Let's keep all those blues. All right, I can deal with that. Let's do, let me see, we were going to work down low and work up. So let's go back down in here using this lighter color this time. One thing that you can do to make this upper edge a bit softer is to use a flatter brush and use that on your upper edge. That would help considerably with the graininess. And then after you're ready to work down in the cloud itself, let me hold you sideways. Then you can come back in with your little round brushes to blend. But I still want the upper edge to be soft. I don't want it to be, let's do the same thing up here. I don't want it to be stiff and just really, really like a pencil line. All right. Now, let's come on down with that a little bit. I do want to leave just whispers of that blue sky showing through. So I don't want to totally do away with that. It's much better with the lighter color. We can do this. All right, I'm getting too spread out. I want to start getting, my paint's going to start drying on me again. So let's rein it in a bit. Work on just finishing. And sometimes, just like right now, I've got quite a bit of paint on there, more than I really want to blend out. So let's use our little blue towel. And you may not, so don't feel like you have to do this if you didn't put too much paint on your painting. I did, so I just need to take some of it off. There we go. Now I can blend. Okay, we'll go over there and work on him again in a minute. Right now, let's get some more of this over here softened. Soften, oops, shaking around again. Soften this top. All right, and our bottom, because we're getting a little fuzzier at the bottom, and I like that a little bit fuzzier at the bottom because it just gives a wind directional idea somehow. I don't know if it does or not, I'm just saying that. All right. Now, before we go any further, I want to blot that off again. I still have more paint on there than I want. All right. And this is where I want to use that pale blue and put a little, oops, not too much. Put a little blue at the top of those clouds. It's not light enough. Let me get some more white. Hold it, hold it. This is kind of the color I've got going on over here. Let's see if it's a good color. And this won't exactly follow the pattern of the cloud itself. Some areas it's going to come down a little lower. Some areas it won't hit at all, and but blend it in pretty good. In some areas it's going to come down in front of other areas. All right. Now let's take a little bit of that pinky pink and do something similar, but it'd be along the bottom. And every now and then you're going to see it up in the cloud itself. I have something honking out there. I wonder if it's the Kini. It's an odd sound. And too much light blue still on that. We'll worry about that in a minute. And it doesn't matter if you bring some of that pink up in, because you never know, where the clouds are a little bit thinner, where they're going to pick up a little bit more of the color from the clouds or from the sky below them. So Let's bring a little bit of that pink up in that cloud. And in spots you can even bring that pink down just kind of as little wispies. Okay, that looks too uniform right there. Let's use just a little bit. Well, don't seem to be picking any up. There we go. Leave those colors behind showing through so that you have a definite background. You don't want to obliterate, because then you'll lose your depth. Okay. Now I'm thinking that I want a little bit of purple in this cloud right here. I still had some pink on my brush. Okay, now when everything dries, you can always come in and add some more highlights wherever you see it, an area that you want to just intensify. All right, let's go ahead and clean up this area over here, and then we'll be finished over there, I'm thinking. I don't want to do a whole lot with that area. I want to leave my clouds to my sky blue. And I'm just going to go ahead and use the basic shape that I have that didn't clean up last week. And it's quite a bit darker, so let's go ahead and go in with that dark up here. I'll show you that. See how dark these clouds are up in there. Of course, I lightened this considerably on my palette. kind of want these particular dark clouds to be closest to me, so I'm not going to bring them down real far. I'm going to leave them hanging up close in the sky. And leave those nice purples behind it. Don't forget to run around the side if you're doing the gallery wrap. All right. I'm going to take out a little bit of that paint. Oops, didn't mean to do that. I had my hands full of paintbrushes on the other side, so I should have just laid them down so I could have used both hands. And one thing I think that really helps with clouds that I haven't been doing is to make little sections of them much more ethereal looking. Leave part of them real opaque if they're thick, if it's a thick bank of clouds, but some of it come up, and you can do that with your pouncing brush easier, but give it just a softer edge. Then some of it might have a real rigid edge and some of it just is thinner at the top. And fading almost into just a smoky look. I think we'll do that with this right here. Softer brushes. Softening up the bottom's not real important right there because we're going to bring our purples over. Oops. It's a much darker purple down in there. So let's get us a little red. And let me see if I can find a clean palette knife. A little red and a little Payne's gray. Hold on a minute. I've got so many paintbrushes in my hands I can't function. Hold on, let me put these down and mix the paint I need. You know, when we make a color palette, we'll make intensities and we'll number them so that I can say, okay, this is the color that I'm using right now on your color palette is number 37 or whatever. And so you can go to number 37 on your color palette and see that it's a mixture of these three colors, and you can just mess around with them until you, get the color you need. All right, you see that color? I think we're pretty close down in there. That's what we're going to use for the bottom of those clouds. So I'm going to wipe those out right there. Actually, I'll just blot them out. I think that'll make it a little easier than doing the color mixing videos, because half the time I'm still having to mix halfway through a painting anyway. I think that will work. Help me remember if I forget what I'm doing. Help me remember what I suggested I would do. And that will just make the whole process, I think, more pleasant for everybody. And you can pause the video, mix your color, and then come back. Now see, this one up here is over top of this cloud. And one of the things that I would encourage you to do when you're painting, If you need to, pick that painting up and set it sideways on your lap, or however you need to adjust that painting. It does not have to stay on this easel, on your easel, the whole time you're working on it. If you need to work on it upside down, work on it upside down. Okay? This needs to be convenient. And that color ended up being pretty dark. That's all right. We'll lighten it up. Take a bit more of it off. All right. I'm going to purple up all these clouds over here on this side because the gray's just not doing it. Let me soften the bottom. I'm going to turn you sideways because this is actually just getting on my nerves. Oops, sorry. All right. One thing that we can notice is there is some intensely pale pink clouds coming down in front of those. I think we need to offset a little bit of this intense colors over here. Of course, I haven't even worked all the way over to the edge of that yet. Let's just blend that out just a little bit and leave it pretty intense. I'm going up in here with just a little bit of that lighter purple. Okay. And at the top of these clouds, we're not seeing that really pale blue, but I'm going to mix a little bit of blue, that pale blue, with that medium gray to just top those clouds off with. Just because I think they need something. I mostly just highlight on the side that would be facing the sun. But you know, you don't have to stay just on the edge of the cloud, because sometimes what's down in the cloud is another cloud on top that you might not necessarily see clearly, but it's there. It just intensifies when you highlight it. I hear one of my girls laying an egg. Bless her heart. Our egg production is really down right now with the change of the weather. But that's okay. I know that you can keep them going artificially by putting a heat lamp and a light source in there. But you're shortening their lives when you do that. And I'd rather just, even if we have to pick up a few eggs at the grocery store this winter, just let our girls have their natural rest. Oops, I didn't move you back up. Sorry there, girls. Okay. Okay. It's taking a bit of time to work the bugs out. And it's frustrating. I'll just be honest with you. All right. Let's go ahead. Fix these guys. That'll probably help quite a bit. Well, I have another girl laying an egg. Either that or the first one's not finished talking about it. I love to listen to them. They're so cute. Didn't want to do that. Let's blot that out. We ended up with blue. Didn't want the blue there. Wanted the pink there. Oops, sorry, girls. Just going around with we have kind of a purpley gray. I just mixed that last purple that I made in those clouds over there with my Payne's Gray mixture. I've changed brushes so many times. You guys, if you're if you're trying to follow along with me, I apologize. It hasn't been a very productive session, I'm afraid. Maybe it's the virus this week. I'll blame it on that. How's that? The virus caused me to be a little goofier than normal. So that one's not stiff enough. See, that's another thing too. I really believe that I'm having to get reacquainted with my paint brushes because I can't remember exactly, oops, what they used to do before I abandoned them. Sorry. Keep bumping my little palette or my little camera. I do think I want to introduce more of that purpley color in these front clouds though. I think they're just a little bit too gray. I think the grayer clouds will be better up top, not in this, not this close to this sun. So I'm reversing again, guys and girls, sorry. Hugh must have gone outside. The birds are fussing at him. Those crazy geese. They're so silly. Yeah, I think I'm liking the purple down in these clouds much better than that gray. The gray was not tripping my trigger, girls and guys. If I could see my canvas, I think all this would be easier. All right, let me pull it back so I can actually see. I like that better. It's still really grainy. So I need a smoother brush, a softer brush to blend. All right. Well, what's happening now is my paint has dried to the point that it's not blending for me any longer. So, you know what? I'm going to call this enough for today. We're going to have to work on these clouds again at some point. And we will finish the clouds up here. I'm just going to do just some clouds, not as thick and heavy as these down here, but just a few coming over. And I don't know if we'll put any up here or not. We'll work on this and a few up in here, and see where we go from there. We didn't put the sun in today, or the sun streams in today. That's all right. I think we're heading in a good direction, but we need to stop. We're already at a minute, or an hour and 12 minutes. So I think that I will practice working on clouds before next session, y'all. For some reason, they're eluding me, and I've just got to remember. Work, brain, work, right? All right. Well, listen, I love y'all. I am going to go put some wood chips in the bottom of my chicken coops, both of them. And this year I'm going with what they call a deep litter. basically just keeping a couple of inches of fresh litter on, or fresh wood chips, in my case wood chips, on the floor of the chicken coops every week, that will protect them from having a lot of ammonia inside the house. But it also, because the wood chips and the chicken yuck is decomposing underneath, it will heat just a little bit, but it heats up enough to help warm their house. And I know some of y'all had been concerned because I wasn't using a heat lamp this year. Our extension agent had explained that if you ever have a power outage and your chickens are used to that kind of warmth, that it can be detrimental. And I know that there's, solar options. However, I just not set up to do that right now. And my chickens, this is another thing that I had been researching. The chickens, when they get cold, and they do snuggle because we have their roosting poles. They have 2 roosting poles in the big house and 1 roosting pole in the small house. And so they do group up. They kind of scooch up together. And they also, when they're cold, they floof out their feathers, and their feathers are like putting on a downy coat. So I have 2x4s turned sideways to keep them flat-footed on the roosting pole, which I didn't realize was a thing, but it is. It will keep if it were to get really cold in there, it will keep their little feet from getting frostbitten. So chickens, there's just a lot to them. But I love my girls, and I think that I'm doing a good job taking care of them. It's just none of this was available in years past. When people had chickens in chicken coops, they never had any kind of heat source in them. And as a matter of fact, Hugh said they never even put, when he was a kid, they never even put plastic or any kind of a wind barrier over the wire. And so, they were cold. Those chickens were absolutely cold. But I think my chickens are okay. They'll be fine. And I just hope that they continue giving us a few eggs along this winter. All right, y'all. Love you much. And I will hopefully talk to you really soon. I'm planning on walking at the cemetery this evening. It's a beautiful day. And the leaves are really stripped. There's very few left. So I'm just going to go up there and putter around and just enjoy the warmth. I'll talk to you later. Love y'all. Bye-bye.